Ghost Cult Magazine. Hi there, this is Tom from TDW, Dreamwalkers Inc. and Layered Reality Productions, and I was asked to give you my top 20 list of 2021. 2021 has obviously been a ridiculous year for many reasons. Let's not go into those, but I have been able to make a top 20 list for you. What I'm going to do is I'm going to count down from 20 to 1, and I'll just give a little bit of info on why I've chosen that particular release, etc., etc. I'm also going to be having it on my screen as a little cheat sheet because so much great stuff came out this year, and I needed to I needed a bit of a help. So here we go. On number 20, we got Luna's Call with the album Void, which, well, there's not much to say here besides the fact that it is an amazing record, and the fact that it's on number 20 doesn't mean that other records are better or worse or whatever. It's just that I had to start with, something. Luna's Call, Void, amazing record. Check it out. Great playing. Good stuff all around. On 19, we got a band that was new for me, which I had not heard of before, Pupil Slicer with Mirrors. Now, for me, Pupil Slicer is a band that I had not heard of before they were announced for a festival called Complexity here in the Netherlands. Talking's hard. And when I saw them on the poster, I was at least intrigued, and then I listened to it, and I was like, holy fuck, what is this? This is awesome. So, yeah. Pupil Slicer basically delivered something amazing with Mirrors, and I think it's a great record. So there you go. Then we go to 18, which is Diablo Swing Orchestra with Swagger and Stroll Down the Rabbit Hole. I mean, by now with Diablo Swing Orchestra, you kind of know what you're getting, and what we're getting is amazing stuff, and it's just catchy as all hell, and it's like, yeah, fuck yeah, let's go do this weird rock and roll thing once again. And I'm all for it. Great stuff. Now, next up is Rivers of Nihil with The Work. And as far as I was concerned, Rivers of Nihil, the last album they did, Where Owls Know My Name, I hope I say that title correctly, I believe I do, that was one that hit me hard because I wasn't really expecting them to deliver an album like that with such emotional intensity. And basically, they just keep that up with this one. It feels like they've refined their craft even more, and it once again hit me right in the feels. So it's like, yeah, The Work, it works. It's great. Just keep going, guys. Thank you. Please keep going. Next up is Cynic with Ascension Codes. Well, I mean, regarding Cynic, there's like a million things I could say that have already been said, so I won't do that. I'm just happy to see that Paul Masvidal is able to create such inspiring music and, keep the legacy of, well, by now, unfortunately, band members that are no longer with us alive and kicking by doing what he does. And Paul, I think you are an incredible human being, and yeah, you deserve all the love and all the encouragement from everybody. Next up is Liquid. Keep that in. Next one is Liquid Tension Experiment number 3. Now, for those of you who are not aware what Liquid Tension Experiment is, it started out as a side project for a bunch of Dream Theater band members with Tony Levin on bass. And by now, considering that Mike Portnoy is no longer a part of Dream Theater, we all know that story by now. It's actually really cool to see Mike Portnoy, John Petrucci, Jordan Rudess, and Tony Levin in one space creating an album. And I think it sounds incredibly fresh. I was pleasantly surprised by how well executed it is. And I'm happy to see that part 3 is not just like a cash-in, but it's actually a really solid, great album with a lot of instrumental madness. It's not for everyone, and that is perfectly fine, as is most of the stuff on my list, really. Next up is Wheel with Resident Human. Now, for Wheel, I actually made the joke with their last album. I was like, well, the best Tool album of that year was actually brought out by Wheel, and I stand by that statement. I think Wheel is single-handedly taking the thing that I liked about a band like Tool, because I kind of lost interest in Tool for the last couple of years. The last album didn't do much for me, and then Wheel kind of jumped into that hole and then took that template and made it their own and added so much cool stuff. So for me, Wheel is an amazing discovery, and Resident Human basically is the continuation of that. So on number 13, we're going for Spirit Box, a band that a lot of people have already been talking about. And I mean, if you've seen the video for Constance and heard the song, the feels, like that broke me the first time, not gonna lie. Like I had to. Afterwards, I needed like at least 10 minutes to just recollect myself because of the emotional intensity on display there, and I think Eternal Blue as an album is just it just works really, really well. So Spirit Box, well done on you. You gave me the feels. Okay. Then on number 12 we got Mr. Bungle. Well, obviously Mr. Bungle released a great album last year, and this year they released a live album called The Night They Came Home, which is basically it's like a gig in COVID times, but filmed incredibly well. Like the visual aspect is really well done as well, but it's It's Mr. Bungle. Come on, you know what you're getting. You know you're getting madness, and madness is what they deliver. And I love it. I love it so much. Then, speaking of madness, we're going to number 11, which is Archspire with Bleed the Future. Now, I don't know if you guys heard of Archspire, but I'm willing to bet my limbs that they are faster than any band that you're listening to right now. They're faster and more insane. By far. Like I think at this point in time, Archspire literally has the world record for fastest blast beats, most ridiculous shit happening in songs. I mean, I'm up for suggestions, don't get me wrong, but in my world, Archspire are the undisputed kings of how to death metal technically properly, and they're doing it so incredibly well. It's ridiculous. Okay, now from Archspire, basically everything is a bit of a step down, but not in terms of intensity, because the next one is Gojira with Fortitude at number 10. And with Gojira, obviously every band, every record they do, you know that you're getting quality, you can recognize it as Gojira, but there's always these little things that make it different. And I think with Fortitude, they've taken the template that is theirs, but they've added just enough interesting new things to keep it interesting for the listener as well. Even the listeners like me who've been around since, well, basically the moment whales started flying. So it's really nice to see how they are picking this up. Next up on the list is one from my own label. Sorry, I just have to mention this one because I'm proud of Richie for doing this. White Stag with the song Maiden of the Mountain. It's a single released earlier this year, and it's a song that, well, everyone who is into avant-garde weird metal with a lot of twists and turns, literally going from death metal to folk to weird dissonant xylophone parts and everything in between, you should check that track out. It is on the streaming services. My hair is a mess, by the way. You can see that now. You can check it out in the streaming services, video, etc. Great stuff. Now, next up on the list is a bit of an outlier, but one that I really, really like. Steven Wilson's solo album, The Future Bites, which is, well, technically a pop album. And of course you could say, wait, you get like this whole list of prog and metal and death metal. Why is there a pop album on there? Because I love the fact that Steven did this, because he is obviously an artist that comes from the prog scene. He's an artist that we all know as, you know, the guy that kind of is irreverent to whatever the fuck people expect him to do. And he made probably one of the best pop albums in the last 10 years by not making a pop album, because if you actually start analyzing these songs with the beats and with everything, it's still 10-minute songs with a lot of weird switches and changes, and it's catchy, but it's definitely not the kind of pop music you would expect. And basically, he's writing pop music to say a fuck you to pop music, which I think is grand and is fucking amazing. Next up is another outlier on the list, Andrew WK with God is Partying. Personally, for me, God is Partying was the surprise. And I think that goes for a lot of people because, well, Andrew WK, I quite liked his stuff unironically in the past, but it was mostly like, like party metal and not really, wasn't a lot of depth to it, which was fine. That was just not his thing. And then he launches this record, and it's basically like, wow, so this is what depression sounds like. Oh boy. And I loved it. I thought it was really, really great and really intense and really fucked. And the imagery in the videos, once again, kind of proves that if you do your videos well and if you know what you want to display to people, you can actually really bring a message across. So Andrew WK has really surprised me this year. Next up on the list, if we're going for even more insane intensity in terms of visuals and sound, The Armed with Live at the Masonic. It is would you call it an album? Would you call it a film? I just call it art for what it is. I've experienced the whole thing, and I cannot describe the intensity of it. It's like The Armed already is a band that is known for all its weirdness and all its incredibly idiotic standards and what they stand for, and the fact that there's so much mystique around them and that the music is so incredibly dense and heavy. And then put that in a really weird situation, which looks like you're watching a film, but a disjointed film that fucks with your head, combined with this music. Yeah, that left an impression. Like, art-wise, I think there's not a lot of bands that will be able to top that. Well, at least not this year, and I don't expect anyone to top that in the next 10 years or 20 years to come, basically. Next up is a young band from Utrecht called IDEC, who released a song called The Trek. Now, for those of you who don't know IDEC is an avant-garde band from Utrecht, led by Matthew op het Einde, and it is a really weird combination of sounds on this song, because this is a song played with a church organ, live performed in a church, with the echo of the cathedral used within the piece, and it's sludgy metal with a halfway break that has a handpan playing, and then there's the organ, and just listen to it, you'll get it. It's just a big, big, weird situation. Next up, we're going to Australia real quick for the band called The Stranger, who launched Kaleidoscope, which was one of my bigger surprises this year, because that album in itself has so many good parts in it. I was just surprised how well written that record was. I was also a bit jealous, as a musician myself. I was like, oh man, I wish I wrote those hooks. You know what I mean? It's like that's what I was really feeling while listening to that. So, The Stranger, Kaleidoscope, cannot recommend it enough. And then we're staying in Australia for a little bit for a band that has been one of my favorites. I mean, the last three bands I'm mentioning now are all bands that already were my favorites and who all came back so strongly this year. The first one on number 3 is 12 Foot Ninja, who released the album Vengeance. And Vengeance to me is... that is like, okay, yeah, sure. Okay, guys, thanks for reestablishing what it's like to be a modern prog metal band again. Thanks for putting the bar so incredibly high that we all have to work harder. Thank you. Much appreciated. But yeah, seriously, great stuff. Check it out. And of course, another band on number 2 in my list. We're almost there, guys. Number 2 in my list could only be one band for me, and that was Between the Buried and Me, who released Colors 2. I mean, that was one of the biggest mindfucks. Like, that they even announced Colors 2. It was like, you're gonna do a follow-up to Colors? Are you sure about this? I was legitimately a bit concerned about that one, because I love Between the Buried and Me. It's one of my all-time favorite bands, and especially in the last couple of years, it's been massive inspiration on my own music. But it's just that, Colors is a thing. A lot of people are really, really crazy about that record, and you don't just do a follow-up easily. And they didn't. The moment I heard Fix the Error, which actually still is my favorite song on the album, even though it's basically a drum solo with a lot of crazy shit and baseball organs and happiness in there, it just clicked with me. Like, the Colors 2 is, in terms of albums, it's probably my favorite album of this year. But there's still one place left, and that is one that I did not expect to say in this list. But it happened. It fucking happened. Porcupine Tree announced its return, and I mean, I even if you're not a prog nerd like me, I mean, obviously I am completely biased, and this is my genre, but even people who don't like prog or hate it violently know Porcupine Tree. Like, everyone has heard of that band at least once, and the fact that they returned with a song like Harridan, which is so incredibly strong, to me that just was like, it really felt like Christmas and everything in one day. You know what I mean? Like, holy crap, they're back. And this is so good. That was really my genuine emotion when hearing that. So, yes, Porcupine Tree's Harridan is number 1 on my list for this year. And, I mean, I hope you guys will, listening to this list, I hope you guys might find some new stuff to discover. If not, then, I'm sorry for wasting your time. If so, please go out and support all these bands. I really, really appreciate you guys for being, for listening to me ramble about this for over 12 minutes now. I'm so sorry. And I hope you all have a great time. If you want to support my music with TDW, the new album Fountains is out now. You can get it on vinyl and on CD, and it's on streaming services, obviously the Spotify's and the Apples and whatever the hell you used to stream it on. I don't know what you use in your microwave. I don't care. Anyway, have a great day. Hope you're all doing incredibly well, and I hope to see you again next year when things happen. I don't know how to end these videos. I'm so awkward about this. Anyway, love you all. Talk to you later. Bye.